Well, that's just while we're getting started here, I'm trying to remember the first time I came to NAALT. And today, I'm talking about the use of transcranial intranasal photobiomodulation therapy that supports rapid reversal of mild cognitive decline. I want to thank everybody here because for all the times that all the information that we've shared here over the years and people that aren't here, but I also want to thank my co-author, which Michael Hamlin is one of them, and Fazad Salafour in Iran. He's just brilliant in his information. The disclosures: I am the owner and president of ProNeuroLight, which is a light manufacturing company. I'm the president of the Neuropathy Treatment Centers of America, and I have a vested interest in getting people better. So I am I'm a chiropractic neurologist, then I have a master's degree in clinical research. So we're going to start at a 50,000 or more height of information and then go down to the hand-to-hand combat, if you don't mind. So Alzheimer's, pick your number. It's actually the third leading cause of death in the United States and the number one cause of death in the UK. $8 trillion can be saved if early and accurate diagnosis. Let's just look at this. 1 in 3 seniors dies with Alzheimer's disease or another dementia. Okay? It kills combined more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. Let's look at it this way. Every 65 seconds, someone in the United States is diagnosed with dementia. Every 4 seconds in the world. But the problem is this: that a new Alzheimer's Association study finds that less than half of people with Alzheimer's disease say they were ever told of their diagnosis. What does that mean? No, think about it this way. They never get a diagnosis. So if it's the third leading cause of death, and 50% of the people don't get the diagnosis, it's a lot bigger than that.
Yeah.
And learning that this diagnosis later in the course of the progressive brain disease means you have diminished capacity to participate in decision-making, care plans, legal, financial issues, ability to participate in positive therapeutics, and inability to fulfill your lifelong dreams. So I'm not sure where we are with our understanding of Alzheimer's, but it is a slippery slope if there's ever one. So I'm not going to do death by pointer, but once you have MCI, there's a subjective, and then MCI, and then boom, down you go. So it is a slippery slope. And the conversion of MCI to Alzheimer's disease is about 10% a year. Basically, you're saying that you go from mild cognitive impairment to moderate Alzheimer's in about 10 years. You can hover, but an effective non-pharmaceutical approach for improving outcomes in Alzheimer's and MCI patients could have a major socioeconomic impact. Socioeconomic. So only effective treatment or prevention can reduce healthcare costs by preventing millions of boomers from living an average of 10 years with dementia and tripling costs from 200 to 600 billion. It is a tsunami, as they say. In this case, it's a 64-year-old married Caucasian female with a history of Alzheimer's disease diagnosed by medical professionals in 2011 and confirmed by neuropsychological testing in 2013. She was currently taking a standard regime prescribed for dementia and various supplements. Her husband was an athletic trainer. She presented in January 27th with worsening cognitive decline. She has family history of dementia, sister diagnosed at 55 years of age, and a maternal aunt. So about the same time, they both got this. Initial exam, she stated that her main concern was to stop her memory loss and to improve her brain function. She stated that her brain was not functioning well, and the diagnosis of dementia and loss of memory scared her. She felt that her diagnosis was a death sentence. And this is how we took care of her: with brain, blood, and body. So I have a huge table at the end, but we used 810 and 635 with 31 milliwatts, and per centimeter squared, 75 milliwatts. But the procedure was a little bit different, and I hope I have my Violite numbers correct there, so you can check me on that. But we took a clinical approach that we have used. Background is I've been doing neuroregeneration for 10 years, presented research on my neuropathy and peripheral nerve regeneration here before. But basically, this case report describes a rapid improvement in working memory, cognitive performance, quality of life, and olfactory testing following our multimodal photoneuromodulation therapy, transcranial, intracranial body. The case is unique in that it demonstrates rapid reversal of cognitive decline and its sequela in 28 days of home treatment. That was 25 minutes applied twice daily, every day. So, surprisingly, the changes in mental clarity were noticed almost immediately in our case. After the first 13 applications, or 1 week, with the light helmet only, the patient stated that things are better, I have a better attitude going forward, I noticed that my mind seems clearer, I know things now that I didn't know. So people who get better from Alzheimer's, dementia, or cognitive decline, it's kind of like a fog is lifting. So I think that's something important to remember. So we started her with the helmet, and then we applied the body pad, and then we applied the Violite, and it's just kind of a somewhat systemic portion. I'm not sure if you're aware, but studies confirm that sniff tests may be useful in diagnosing early Alzheimer's. And we used a ALBERTA smell test. This is Dr. Green put together the ALBERTA smell test. They asked participants to identify odors from scented felt tip markers. Yes, that's correct. Mr. Sketch scented markers. 8 different flavors, if you will, but they're more smells, are held under the patient's nose for 2 seconds, and they sniff it, and they have a little cheat sheet here, because of course they don't remember stuff. We tell them these are the colors, and so it is a very important process, because olfactory deficits and frontal temporal dementia are measured by the ALBERTA smell test. So it has been done before. This is not a very common test. But there's been a lot of work with the TBIs and normals with Dr. Paul Green's work. And a normal person out of 20 attempts will hit 12 of these scents. Our pre-care patient had 0 olfaction, and it's actually 0 on the peanut butter test, which is a kind of a famous smell test. Post-care, surprisingly, she regained smell to a range of 2, which is the dementia cutoff in the other times that they use this type of test. We used a working memory questionnaire. It's a scale to assess everyday life problems related to deficits of working memory in brain-injured patients. I really like this one because it compares with a TBI group. So a TBI group will usually get a score of 35, and that's a disability. The higher the score, the greater the disability or complaint because of your memory. A control group will have about 18, so somewhat frustration in there with their mental clarity. Our client or patient pre-care was a 53, and after 28 days post-care, she went to a 10. So that was from a 41% to 8, which is a 33% subjective improvement in her working memory. She did have changes in storage, attention, and executive domain. So we also examined caregiver stress and instrumental activities of daily living, as well as activities of daily living, which are physical self-maintenance scales. Let's see if I got this right here. So take care of yourself, the caregiver. This is going to be very important as we go forward, but we used the caregiver self-assessment questionnaire. Basically, a high level of stress would be a 10. The caregiver stress pre-care was 6. And their own current health would be rated as a 3, which is relatively very healthy. Post-care, the caregiver stress went down, and their current health of the caregiver improved. I want to just make a note that the caregiver actually went down to 1, but he had an episode of back pain, which kind of shot him back up. So caregiver stress is reduced. This is the one that we used for the activities of daily living, physical self-maintenance. So a person with Alzheimer's or dementia or cognitive decline has difficulty taking care of themselves. So this looks at toilets and feeding and dressing and grooming and physical health. This is what I do myself, or if I lose that ability, someone has to support me. Okay? And we also looked at the instrumental activities of daily living. These are things that you kind of minimally need to get by on. And this is a scale. They're usually put together, so your ability to do, can you use the phone? Can you do the shopping? Can you do the food, housekeeping, laundry, get around, responsibility for medicines and medication. So again, caregiver burden. So when we looked at this caregiver-related patient self-care and these in the IADLs and what have you, a normal person has a score of 14, which means I can do everything. The physical self-maintenance you can see is there as the red was 6 before, and their independent activities of daily or instrumental activities was a 5. Post-care, the patient became normal. She could do just about everything according to this scale, so that's a nice improvement. So to summarize, caregiver stress is reduced and activities of daily living went up. So basically, it's a good thing. Okay? So we also tested them with the MOCA, the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. You may be familiar with this. It's very similar to the MMSE that Anita and her group used. It is the test that Donald Trump took. And Donald Trump received a perfect score in the MOCA. But in fact, you don't get a perfect score in the MOCA, you get a number. So 26 to 30 is good. Okay, you're not perfect because you're normal. Okay, and then at 26 to about 17 is cognitive impairment, and then 16 or so below, 17 or below, and you have dementia. Our patient had a rapid reversal. She started at about 17 or 18, and within 28 days, she had a 6-point change in the MOCA to 24, which is pretty much normal. So that was pretty amazing. So the observed beneficial cognitive and quality of life outcomes in our patient could be explained by fill in the blank. This is my table for review, and we can come back to that if there's specific questions, but I want to get down to the hand-to-hand combat section. Now, this is my mom and her live-in boyfriend of almost 20 years, Howard. My mom has a severe dementia with aphasia. She is a 7 on the MMSE. Howard was her caregiver for the last, as long as 18 years. But on Memorial Day, Howard fell down the stairs and suffered an unsurvivable injury. And he passed. That meant I became the caregiver for my mom. And because of the help of everybody that's been pushing this research for the last few years, guess who started to get the care? And my mom improved and continues to get better thanks to all of you. So I can just tell you that the caregiver stress is real. And before any of this happened, we already recognized that. So I don't really know where this thing points out, but I have to say thank you to all of you for your work.
And again, we'll just save the questions until the end. We'll all sit up here.